Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Writer's Launchpad Basic Toolbox Series. I'm honored that you've come here to be with me today, and I have some good information for you about ways that you can strategize to get your content out into the world where it wants to go and connect with your audience in meaningful ways so that you can attain the kind of success and communication with your readership and build your following that you want to achieve. I have been posting about this event. I hope that people are going to be able to get here. This whole Zoom thing is, well, it's a new world that we're in, and we're all learning as we go. Today, I'm going to share with you some things that I've been doing for quite some time in order to create more value for you in your writing adventures. The content that you create has value, and you want to make it have the most value that it can by connecting with people who are in a position to get the kind of reaction that you want to create. So the first thing is that you want to understand who they are and what they need. And how is it that what you're going to create for them is going to be relevant for them in their life? If you are doing business writing, you want to connect on a level that clearly people who are using business writing in any way want to be making more money. They want to have more income, hopefully with less effort. And that's part of what this session is about, is how to make the most out of the content that you've already created and put it exactly where it's going to go so that it works for you and for your reader. Because the number one, if you're not creating value for your reader, they're not going to come back. If you are creating value for your reader, they will come back. So who is your reader? What's going on with your reader? I covered this in the previous session about connecting with your reader, and I'm going to go into that a little bit today so that we can figure out which platforms are going to work the most for you. So if your reader is, for instance, a business person, they're going to be hanging out in business platforms, in networking groups, in reading articles online that are about business. If your reader is a different kind of reader, like say, for instance, you're creating a memoir, then you have a different audience. Who is going to be interested in your writing? And what is going to be the magnet that draws them to you? If your project is of a personal nature, like you want to create a legacy for your family, then you have one tone and one way of delivering your marketing. That maybe it's marketing, maybe it's simply family sharing, and that decision is a deeper decision that comes from how do you want your message to resonate in the world? Do you have a big audience? Do you have a smaller audience? Where are you going with this? If you have a pinpointed audience that's your targeted audience, that you know exactly who it is that you want to read your work, then you can make intelligent and focused decisions that will bring you to the right level with sharing your content. Now, for this presentation, I'm going to assume that you want to reach a lot of people, because most people do want to reach a lot of people. And the strategies that you use to connect with your audience and potentially your market are directly involved with you being comfortable creating a system and a process that delivers content consistency. If you don't have consistency in your content, people are going to go, oh, yeah, now she's back. I haven't heard from her for a while. I wonder what she wants, rather than saying, I see this person as a trusted source of information, and everything I've ever read from her is valuable, and I want to know more about what she has to say. So if you have created a devoted readership of that kind, then you can share a lot of stuff. It doesn't have to be directly business related. In fact, it's kind of a good idea to share at least some of your inner world, your feelings, your take on what's going on with your audience, so that they can relate to you. They don't see you as just somebody in print or online or even on the radio or on TV. So you want to be able to really get close with your audience. Get in their head, figure out what they're thinking about, what's important to them. How are they going to be able to grab what you've got, have it make some sense in their life, and move forward with it? So that's for you while you're generating your content. It's, like creating something that's very, very relevant to your audience so that they want to keep coming back. So where are they likely to be? What is your targeted reader? What is their most likely place to be hanging out? It could be in physical meetings if we have the privilege of having those, once we do get that privilege again, because right now this is a lockdown time and we all have to make a lot of adjustments figuring out how we're going to be together. And fortunately, there are a lot of those things already available online. So I recommend having multiple platforms, and I'm going to list the ones that I like to use here. Some of them I use more than others, although lately I've been getting more and more involved in spreading my content over a number of different platforms. So the first one, and the most obvious one, is social media, because most of the world is at least partially on social media at least part of the time. And so that's a great place to share your content. Show up with your post. Usually if you post the same time every day, it's good for you, it's good for your audience. They know when you're going to be there. When you're going to be going to work, so to speak, to put your stuff out there for people to connect with you. In social media, you have your personal feed. That's one level. And then there are other ways. If you have a business page, then you can also connect with your business page and share your expertise or your content in that way. With email services, depending on which email service you use, you can create blog broadcasts, for instance, or get permalinks so that when you post something to your email list, you can also send it to your social media site. What I use is the Aweber platform, which was taught to me by a tech coach. When I first got into the internet world, I realized I didn't know I knew nothing about how to broadcast content or connect with readership. So I hired somebody to teach me how to do it. And she was good. I mean, she was one of the best. And it was one of the smartest things I ever did was to connect with this very excellent person who taught me many of the skills that I'm going to share with you today in greater detail, because this is just going to be an overview. So on social media, of course, number one, what is your favorite platform? You use Facebook. I mean, practically everybody that's in the group that I would expect to be speaking to in this presentation is using Facebook. Most people are using LinkedIn as well, and possibly Twitter if you're a Twitter person. I tried Twitter as a means of connecting, and I found that it really wasn't taking me to a place that was working for me. Oh, I still have a Twitter presence, but it's extremely minor. I tend to stick to the classic platforms that work for me, and I'm going to get into how and why that works in a little while. So another way to, and then, you have an email service, right? If you're on Aweber or MailChimp or Constant Contact, then you have a list. Hopefully you have more than one list of people who are interested in different things that you provide, and you can connect with them by creating messages and sending them out. And then, once again, you can hook those up to your social media sites so that they go directly to those sites. I really think that e-zines are one of the coolest things around, because when you write for an e-zine, you gain an audience, and a lot of the e-zines are actually they're places where people go to grab content for their own online publications. And so, like, for example, I write for ezinearticles.com, and after I've got my article approved, then somebody else, some other ezine can go to ezine articles, and if they like what I write, they rebroadcast it onto their platform. So I'm gaining exposure on a number of different ezines from, I'll explain what ezines is in a little while. Sandy, thank you. And it's just a great way to get content out there, to boost yourself in the search engine optimization process. And they give you cool little badges for writing about different topics. You can create your profile, and you also get a resource box where you can direct people to go to your website. I'm going to type this in right now. It's ezinearticles.com. Oops, I'm mistyping it. ezinearticles.com. Anyway, I recommend that. Check that resource out. There are other ezine, online magazines all over the place, but that one has a lot of exposure, and it has a lot of different categories. For whatever reason, the editor of that publication likes what I write a lot and tends to approve my articles pretty quickly. Usually it takes about a week, but after she gets to know you, I think she speeds it up, and mine usually go in pretty fast. That's one way to do it. And then you can take that link that you get from that and once again post it on your social media site, so people realize, hey, you're going to a lot of different places with this, right? And this, in turn, this will boost your credibility, and you'll meet people and be exposed to people that you wouldn't be otherwise. You can put this on your website as well, and so you have a lot of different kind of crisscrossing methods of communication that intersect at intervals and create new patterns, which is kind of fascinating. It's an organic process that will slowly but surely raise your boat. And the more that you consistently post online, the more Google likes you, and the more it will push you up. If someone types in your name, they might get a whole bunch of pages of listings, which is kind of cool. If you Google yourself and you find, wow, I've got like 3 pages going on. This is cool, right? And it is fun, and it brings you exposure, which is what you want. If you have a blog, you can also raise your boat by doing that. You can use Blogger, which is one of the Google tools. It's free. It's incredibly easy to use, and you can schedule your blog out as far out as you want. My personal blog is scheduled out through the end of this calendar year, which is great. It's very freeing, and I know when my blog posts are going to go out, so then I can take the permalink and put it into any place that I want. I can schedule it into my my automated system, and if necessary, I can go back to the blogger and repost the blog on someone else's blog if I'm a guest blogger, which I am on a very large group site. And then from there you can once again push it out to whatever other platforms or groups you may be in the social media world. So what about guest blogs? Well, guest blogs are really cool because that gives you the ability to have someone else market your blog for you. And it also gives you more credibility when you say, oh, I post on this blog and I post on that blog and I'm a guest writer over here and over there. People go, oh, I really do want to know what she's got going on. And that when you can see that beginning to happen, it's a great feeling. Oh, for just one moment, I want to return to email services because I forgot to mention something. That when you send your content out on an email service, you can click on your stats report of I know Aweber real well, so I'm going to talk about Aweber. I'm learning Constant Contact. I've only been using that for 4 years, and there's lots of stuff I don't know about Constant Contact yet. But with Aweber, for instance, you can go into your reports and find out exactly who's reading you, when they opened your email, what link, if any, that they clicked on, and what website it took them to. So that is really a fun thing to know, because then you can evaluate who's connecting with your content and in what way, and reach out to them if you find that they're reading you consistently and say, hey, are you ready for me to talk to you yet? Depending on what you're marketing. Now I'm marketing writing services, which means that my marketing is a little bit different from other people's, because I believe that an author is ready when they're ready. I will encourage you to be ready, and I will not say you have to be ready like some people will do. I'm never going to do that. So just so you know, here at the Writer's Launchpad, we don't rush you. We prepare you, and when you're ready, we launch, and that's how we roll. So back to guest blogs. Guest blogs are wonderful.
Betty, I have a quick question regarding blogs.
Sure.
What is your opinion on being consistent or not being consistent? I have been very inconsistent with blogging. Yeah. I've done it over the years, but I haven't dropped that into a regular schedule. How do you feel about it?
I think that's a big issue for a lot of people. And I had this one coach who said, well, if your blog is late, no one's going to notice. But I don't think that's true. I think that people want you to be consistent. If they're really into your blog, they want to know. Like, for instance, there's a blog I follow that is about simplicity, and she posts at the same time on the same day of the week, generally. And if that doesn't happen, I start to wonder what's going on with her. Is she okay? And she shares her personal life in her blog to a certain extent. And, so I think it's an important thing, but I have a tool to create consistency in blogging that takes that, oh my God, the deadline is right in front of me thing away. Because I hate that too. I can't live with that. If I didn't have an automated blog, I would not be able to do it. In the way that I do. There's a couple of blogs that I can't say that that's true, because I'm writing for them on a different level, like make once a month instead of once every 2 weeks. But I think, Gina, that really consistency is an important part of our messaging. And if you're interested, I do have a specific method that I teach about how to create a 6-month or a 1-year blog out that, you can create your topics and then drop into your topics as the spirit moves you. And before you know it, you've got your content created and automated, and it's no longer a boogeyman. Because the deadline it's a great thing. As a news brief person, I love the deadline, and it's also it's not for every piece of writing. It's and a lot of people are like really in dread that, oh my God, now I have to write my blog. So consistency, I think, it's important. It's not absolutely important, but I think it's right up there in the top 5 for sure. I mean, quality of content is great, but if people don't know when your blog is coming out, then you might hit them at a place where they don't have time to open it. For instance, like the blog I'm talking about is called My Simpler Life, and it comes out on Sunday evening. So it's an important part of my Sunday that, hey, what are the 5 tips for simplicity? And like I said, if I don't see her, I wonder what happened. And so does that help? Is that is that useful to you, Gina?
Yes, I just, the way I run my blog is I depend on someone else to take it from me once I write it.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't track them or make them do it, because it's, purely volunteer for both of us.
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes my blog will sit there. Like I have one that I submitted a couple weeks back, and it's still just sitting there. But we have a follow-up strategy session this Friday that I'm going to try to nip it in the bud so they don't get stale.
Right.
And that they, that there's a system where it just kind of flows straight out.
Yeah. That's a good one, because realize that energy of having your blog out there and you don't want it to go stale, that's an energy drain for you. That's
Yeah, it's in my mental space. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's taking your creativity process to a place where you really don't want it to go. But but you have a meeting scheduled to handle that issue. That's great. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what to do. Cool. So let's see what else. So blogging, yeah, I highly recommend blogging. It's fun when you see your blog out there, and especially when people react to it and compliment. Yeah, everybody likes a compliment, right? So, and now we come to YouTube. Okay, do you have a YouTube channel? You could have a YouTube channel. It's really easy to set one up. And then you can take whatever content that you may have generated from any video experience or even audios and put it on YouTube, and it's accessible. Once again, Google prefers its own products, and Google and YouTube are the two top search engines. They're both run by Google. And so anything that you put on there is going to be ranked well. And the best and easiest way to post content on YouTube is Google Hangouts. If you do a Google Hangout and you have a YouTube channel, it goes directly to your YouTube channel. Simple. Then all you have to do is go to your channel and type in your keywords, or edit your video if you wish, change the settings on it, whether it's public, private, or unlisted, and that kind of thing. And there you are. You're a TV star. Right? I mean, we all are these days with Zoom. We're all video personalities. So yes, Zoom, that's on this list. And then there's online courses. I'm in the process of putting together an online course, which is something I've been wanting to do for years. And you can showcase your online course in various ways, with your email marketing, with your, whatever your marketing strategy is. But with your online course, you can take all of the content that you've created and repurpose it to go there. And also, having said that, I really recommend repurposing all of your content all the time. If you posted something in your blog, you can still tweak it a little bit and put it into an e-zine article, because they do want to have things that are fresh, that have never appeared online before. But all that means is that you do a little bit of editing to reach the next audience, and the same amount of expertise and content that you've already created is there ready to go to a different audience. If you are, when we are able to have live speaking events again, that will be a fun thing to do, and another great way to share your content. You can showcase yourself by saying, yes, I do this. I am a published author. I am a blogger. I am a speaker. You can visit my YouTube channel, yada, yada. And then people will go, hey, you know what? She's actually showing up, which is what they want to know. Is how interested are you in your own work, and what's in it for them when they tap into your expertise. Last but not least, there are radio and video interviews, which are, I love radio. Radio is a total blast. You send in the questions to the host, and they may or may not ask you those questions. They might ask you something completely different. And what's cool about the radio, there's a couple of things. Number one, you're just talking. You're on the phone generally, and people don't see you, but you can kind of sense that they're out there listening to you. And every time I've done an interview, I've learned so much from the questions that the host will ask. I always feel like I know my topic better after looking at those questions. And every once in a while, somebody asks me a question that's completely out of the box and something I would have never thought they would say. And so then it's like, okay, spontaneously, I'm interacting with this unknown group of people in a way that has, I'm just throwing it out there. It's like launching something into deep space and going, what's going to happen now? So anyway, sorry, that was my phone. So here's what you want to do. Since you don't want to do all of these things at once, this is something you need to ramp up to. Choose what you feel are your two best options. If blogging, for instance, is a source of discomfort with using the current system that you have, then concentrate on something that you already have going that's really, really good. For instance, if you're a social media strategizer and networking expert, then go for that, lean into it, and still go after the blogging, but with something like writing articles for online publications, you don't have the same kind of pressure as you do with your own personal blog of maintaining your personal presence on that level. And, once again, if you're a guest blogger on someone else's blog, they have different requirements. Some people want you to say exactly when you're going to post and post at that time and date. Other people, like I have an article in review right now that it comes out once a month. So I have plenty of time to figure out something that is going to be good for that audience, send it in, interact with the editor, and so on. And so it depends on what the editorial process is. Like if you're interacting with someone else's online magazine, that's different from submitting your own articles on an e-zine platform. And so having said all of that, I want to know, what is the biggest challenge for you? Which of these options do you think is going to be a really big challenge for you? And I want to encourage you to go ahead and do it, even if it's really seems hard, or if you're scared to do it, especially if you're scared to do it, because I believe in that saying that the thing you're most scared to do is probably the thing that you would be the best thing for you to do. And I'm not saying, just charge into the surf naked, but maybe that's what's happening. It may or may not be. But I encourage you to push yourself beyond the limits of what you believe you can do, and certainly do not dwell in your comfort zone for much of the time. Comfort yourself, take care of yourself, nourish your creativity, because it's hard. I mean, writing is wonderful, and there's times when you just hit a wall and you really don't want to do it, and you do it anyway. It's just part of the craft. It's part of the process of communication. So everybody's got some kind of an issue about what's going on with their writing, and so I encourage you to just go for it, do it. So choose your 2 favorite platforms and fool around with the one that scares you, and see what happens. So, who else has questions? Teresa.
To mute myself. I have bad dogs.
Okay.
When writing things and they take a form, like you're thinking, you have something to write, and it's days and it's percolating in there, and then you throw it out on paper. And it's not in a real flowing state at that point. You go through and get the flow better.
Yeah.
But then suddenly it just doesn't feel right, or you need to change directions. What's the best way to do that?
If you feel like you need to change direction, do you want to have the same message, or do you want to change the message?
Have most of the message in there, but tweak it and add.
Mm-hmm. Well, add what you want to add, and then look at how it goes along with what you already have, and take out whatever doesn't harmonize with what you've just added. That would be my first take on that.
What happens when you have it's a lot of it's conceptual. Sometimes getting the conceptual that's in us is hard to get out on paper.
Right. Yeah.
And
yes, it is.
The concept seems huge inside of you at the time, but then when it comes out on paper, it seems so small and it's not getting across the way you want it.
Uh-huh. Can you give me an example? That would make it easier for me to respond.
An example is like if you'd have a concept in your leadership that you see, and it's a concept, and you want to get it out to your reader in the form of a leadership and how it's going, but it just doesn't come out right, and it takes you forever to do it, and you may have a deadline.
Oh, we're doing fun with deadlines lately, huh? You know, I'm like, huh, what's going on with this? Yeah. So,
Are you referring to our deadline tomorrow night at 6 p.m. with our board meeting for PWN?
No, basically, the president's letters for the president's portion for the newsletter part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I find that in a lot of things that I try, I'm writing for people that I lead, that I have the concept is hard to get out onto the paper at times. And it's just, I don't know if that's something everyone struggles with. And how do you kind of pose yourself mentally to do that?
I recommend that you start with what it is that you want to achieve. Like, the concept part can be hard to get across to the reader, but if you, as the writer, are saying, okay, what do I want people to do, and how can I get them to do it, then the concept can kind of recede. It's still in your mind. It's the thing that's driving you, but your readership isn't necessarily going to be able to relate to it because you're their leader, and they're it's your job to get the concept, not theirs, if you see what I mean. And so, if you're very clear in your mind with the concept, that's the key to the whole communication. And then if you're ready to set it out as, okay, here's what I want us to achieve. I want this goal to be met through the readership or through the membership. Then people are able to come up with their concept and see if they can meet your concept. And they're probably not going to be able to get their concept across in words or in writing all that well on a direct level either. But if the whole point of the communication that you're creating is to get the results rather than to have people understand you. You want to understand your reader and get your reader to respond rather than to have your reader directly understand you as the author or as the presenter. I really believe that's how you get results.
That's good. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm going to stop the recording and stay on here and keep chatting with you, my dear participants. I'm going to stop here.